The world of global celebrity has always been built on a complex foundation of illusions, where the public images presented to millions often conceal a much darker, far more intricate reality that unfolds far away from the flashing lights of the red carpet. For years, the collective imagination of the world was captured by stories of ultimate success of individuals who seemed to possess everything the human heart could desire. From immense wealth and unmatched creative influence to a partnership that appeared to be forged in the stars themselves. We watch these figures from a distance, projecting our own hopes and dreams onto their seemingly flawless lives, convinced that their triumphs belong to a separate, untouchable realm of existence. Yet, history has shown time and again that the grander the facade, the more devastating the eventual collapse tends to be when the underlying structures begin to fracture under the immense weight of personal ambition, pride, and unresolved grievances. What begins as a modern fairy tale celebrated by media outlets across every continent can quietly transform over the course of a decade into a deeply entrenched, multi-layered conflict that defies simple resolution. This is not merely a story about the dissolution of a highly publicized relationship, nor is it a standard chronicle of a wealthy couple dividing their assets in the wake of a separation. Rather, it is an epic saga of shifting alliances, hidden financial maneuvers, and a relentless psychological battle that has slowly extended its reach across international borders, involving powerful global entities and mysterious billionaires who operate in the shadows of the world economy. As the public watches from the sidelines, fascinated by every new development, it becomes increasingly clear that the initial dispute was just the surface layer of a much larger, far more explosive confrontation that threatens to expose the inner workings of an elite world where personal vengeance and corporate strategy become completely indistinguishable. At the very center of this brewing storm stands a physical monument to what once was a shared vision of peace, creativity, and familial legacy, a breathtaking estate nestled deep within the rolling hills of the French countryside, surrounded by ancient forests, olive groves, and sun-drenched vineyards that have produced world-class vintages for generations. To the casual observer, this magnificent property, known as Chateau Miraval, represents the pinnacle of European elegance and a sanctuary away from the relentless scrutiny of the Hollywood ecosystem. It was a place where promises were made, where a family sought to anchor its roots, and where the natural beauty of the landscape seemed to offer a timeless refuge from the chaotic demands of global stardom. The stone walls of the estate, rich with history and romance, were supposed to protect a shared future, acting as a canvas upon which a grand legacy could be painted for the next generation to inherit. However, as the years progressed and the initial warmth of that shared dream cooled into a bitter frost, the serene estate transformed from a peaceful sanctuary into a heavily fortified legal battleground, with every acre of land and every bottle of wine becoming a pawn in a much larger, far more calculated game of chess. The idyllic silence of the French valleys has been replaced by the rustle of endless court documents, the sharp exchanges of international lawyers, and the looming shadow of a massive, high-stakes confrontation that threatens to permanently alter the destiny of this historic property. The vineyard, which once symbolized the union of two of the most powerful forces in modern popular culture, has now become the ultimate prize in a war of attrition, where neither side is willing to retreat, and where every minor legal maneuver is treated as a critical battle for dominance and control. The fascination surrounding this unfolding drama speaks to a deeper human desire to understand the complexities of power, affection, and the inevitable fallout that occurs when a grand partnership turns into a bitter rivalry. As we follow these narratives, analyzing every public statement and dissecting every court filing, we are reminded of how thin the line truly is between devotion and hostility, and how easily a shared empire can become a monument to mutual destruction. For those who watch these events closely, seeking to understand the deeper currents that drive such intense global conflicts, staying informed becomes a journey of its own, a way to witness history unfolding in real time within the upper echelons of society. If you find yourself captivated by the intricate details of this high-stakes narrative and wish to understand the deep-seated motivations and hidden mechanisms behind the world's most dramatic public rivalries, taking a brief moment to subscribe to this channel ensures that you will never miss a critical update as this massive story continues to develop toward its ultimate conclusion. The narrative we are examining is far from a simple disagreement. It is a complex tapestry woven from years of shared history, intense public scrutiny, and a growing web of legal entanglements that now stretches from the courtrooms of California to the financial hubs of Europe. The stakes are raised with each passing season, and what once seemed like a private matter has now evolved into a public spectacle that involves complex corporate acquisitions, international jurisdictions, and the reputations of some of the most recognizable figures on the planet, leaving the global audience waiting in breathless anticipation for the next major revelation. As we prepare to delve into the specific mechanisms that triggered this unprecedented legal warfare, it is essential to recognize the sheer scale of the forces that are currently moving toward an inevitable collision. On one side, we have a celebrated figure who has spent decades redefining the boundaries of Hollywood stardom, a person whose creative choices and public persona have made them an enduring icon of modern cinema. Now fiercely determined to protect what they perceive as their rightful legacy and the integrity of a shared agreement that was supposed to govern their most prized possession. On the other side stands an equally formidable force, a widely acclaimed actress and humanitarian who has consistently used her global platform to challenge conventions, now seemingly looking forward to an upcoming trial with a sense of resolute confidence. Viewing the impending courtroom battle as a necessary step toward achieving total independence and allowing her family to finally focus their energies on healing and moving forward into a new chapter of their lives. The tension between these two titanic personalities has been building for years, fueled by a lengthy and grueling custody dispute that deeply fractured their relationship and left a trail of unresolved resentment that has now spilled over into their joint business ventures. What makes this particular phase of their ongoing battle so compelling is the realization that the upcoming trial, scheduled to take place next year, is no longer just a private duel between two famous ex-spouses, but a sweeping international drama that will force high-profile executives, mysterious billionaires, and corporate entities to step out of the shadows and explain exactly how a secretive, multi-million-dollar deal was orchestrated behind closed doors, creating an atmosphere of intense suspense as the countdown to the courtroom showdown begins. The delicate balance of this multi-million-dollar empire was permanently shattered when a quiet, highly secretive transaction took place behind the scenes, effectively introducing an aggressive global element into what had previously been a strictly private dispute between two former partners. The central conflict ignited when the celebrated actress made the strategic decision to sell her 50% stake in the magnificent French winery Chateau Miraval to a division known as Tenute del Mondo, which serves as the specialized wine arm of the massive Cyprus-registered SPI group. This corporate entity is controlled by none other than the prominent vodka billionaire Yuri Shefler, a highly sophisticated and powerful businessman whose vast commercial interests span multiple continents and whose sudden entry into the Miraval landscape immediately transformed the nature of the entire enterprise. For the Hollywood actor, this transaction felt like a devastating betrayal of a foundational understanding, as he firmly maintained that they had a binding, implied agreement that neither party would ever sell their respective share of the beloved Provençal estate without the direct consent and approval of the other. The actor contended that his former wife knowingly and intentionally orchestrated the sale in complete secrecy, specifically choosing an aggressive third-party buyer to facilitate a deliberate breach of his contractual rights and to prevent him from maintaining operational control over the vineyard he had spent years personally cultivating and expanding into a world-renowned brand, according to insiders close to the situation. This unexpected corporate maneuver was viewed by many as a calculated act of retaliation, a sharp response that emerged directly from the ashes of their long, exhausting, and deeply painful custody dispute over their children. The actor argued that his former partner was fully aware of his intense reluctance to ever do business with an organization like the Stoli Group, and by transferring her ownership to Shefler behind his back, she had executed a masterstroke of financial and emotional retribution. In response to this sudden intrusion into his life's work, the actor initiated a major lawsuit in a California court, unleashing a relentless legal offensive designed to dismantle the validity of the sale and to expose the underlying mechanics of how this international transaction was put together. For years, the legal teams representing the billionaire and his corporate empire fought aggressively to distance themselves from the California jurisdiction, confidently arguing that because the complex negotiations had been conducted entirely by European representatives on European soil regarding a historic vineyard located in France, The American courts had absolutely no authority or right to exercise jurisdiction over them. The billionaire himself consistently maintained that he was simply a Swiss resident who played no active, personal role in the 6-month-long negotiation process, suggesting that he was an entirely passive investor who had merely signed off on an ordinary business transaction. However, the entire trajectory of this international legal warfare experienced a massive, dramatic shift when a California court of appeal handed down a powerful, unanimous ruling that completely dismantled the billionaire's defense and paved the way for a direct, face-to-face courtroom showdown. A 3-judge panel took the extraordinary step of reversing a lower court decision that had previously allowed the vodka magnate to walk away from the lawsuit, with the appeals court bluntly stating that it defied all standard business credulity to believe that a highly sophisticated international businessman would risk nearly $40 million of his own personal funds on a major corporate transaction about which he supposedly knew absolutely nothing and with which he claimed to have had no real personal involvement. The appellate court's extensive findings revealed a treasure trove of hidden details that directly contradicted the billionaire's claims of innocence, showing that he had personally guaranteed $39 million to secure the installment payments to the actress and had actively communicated with his lieutenants throughout the entire process. Internal corporate communications uncovered by the legal teams showed that his staff deferentially referred to him by mysterious code names such as the founder and Mr. S as they scrambled to manage the actor's immediate, furious reaction to the surprise acquisition. Furthermore, the court highlighted direct correspondence from the billionaire himself, including a letter sent to the actress shortly after the deal was finalized, in which he warmly thanked her for accepting his personal offer and expressed his deep gratitude for her explicit willingness to assist in resolving any potential issues or conflicts with the remaining shareholders of the company. In these letters, the billionaire went so far as to assure her that the estate was entirely safe with him, while simultaneously acknowledging that this was an incredibly unique and complex transaction that was not nearly as straightforward as any of them would have liked it to be. The appeals court ultimately ruled that it was precisely these extensive, deliberate contacts with California, specifically the purchase of a California-based entity known as Nouvelle LLC, which the actress had used to hold her interest in Miraval, that directly caused the actionable injury to another California resident and business, thereby firmly solidifying the state's legal jurisdiction over the entire international group. This critical appellate victory for the actor has successfully pulled the mysterious corporate entities out of the shadows, forcing them to prepare for a grueling process of total transparency. The practical implications of these recent legal developments are immense, as a California Superior Court has officially granted the actor's motion to depose high-ranking members of the Stoli Group, creating a definitive timeline that forces these executives to answer tough questions under oath. This marks a massive escalation from the previous year, when the actor's legal team had aggressively sought to depose the company's executive, Alexei Olenek, only to be met with fierce resistance from the actress's lawyers, who confidently argued that the executive was a Swiss resident and therefore completely exempt from presenting internal documents or appearing for any American legal deposition. The new court filings have permanently shattered that wall of resistance, explicitly ordering that depositions for both the executive and other designated persons most qualified must occur by the fast-approaching deadline of September 30th of this year in London. This means that before the actual trial even begins, the billionaire's inner circle will be subjected to intense, rigorous questioning regarding the hidden orchestrations of the $64 million deal, ensuring that every piece of internal strategy, every hidden email, and every private agreement will be laid bare for the court to examine, despite the undeniable weight of these successive legal setbacks. The actress and her legal team have maintained an incredibly calm, almost defiant public posture, consistently downplaying the significance of the actor's courtroom victories. A prominent attorney representing the actress publicly stated that these recent rulings have made absolutely no impact whatsoever on the actual merits of the case, and they certainly possess no negative impact on his client's ultimate position. Instead of showing any signs of anxiety or retreat, sources close to the actress emphasize that she is genuinely looking forward to the upcoming trial, possessing complete confidence that she will thoroughly defeat the actor's claims when they finally face off before a judge and jury next year. Her camp insists that her primary motivation remains entirely focused on concluding this endless, draining legal warfare so that her large family can finally step away from the destructive cycle of public litigation and direct their collective energies toward emotional healing, personal growth, and moving forward with their lives. This stark contrast between the actor's relentless pursuit of corporate transparency and the actress's desire for total closure has infused the entire atmosphere surrounding the case with an incredible amount of psychological tension. As both individuals appear completely convinced of their eventual triumph, setting the stage for an explosive confrontation where compromises are no longer an option. The high-stakes legal warfare over Chateau Miraval has now reached a critical turning point, drawing a definitive line in the sand for everyone involved and setting the stage for what promises to be one of the most explosive, heavily scrutinized courtroom confrontations in the history of global popular culture. With the California court officially setting the definitive trial date for February 1, 2027, the long-standing dispute is no longer just a collection of abstract legal theories or a war of words conducted through public relations representatives. Instead, this multi-million-dollar conflict, which involves a combined estate valuation that experts now estimate to be approximately $164 million, is rapidly moving toward a total, unyielding exposure of the inner workings of the elite entertainment and corporate worlds. Before the parties ever step foot into the courtroom for the final trial, they will be forced to undergo a mandatory mediation process scheduled for October 28th of this year, a final, structured attempt by the judicial system to find a peaceful resolution to an 8-year-long conflict that has completely defied every previous attempt at compromise. If this upcoming mediation fails, as many industry insiders strongly predict it will given the intense personal animosity and the vast financial interests at stake, the February 2027 trial will proceed, forcing the vodka billionaire Yuri Shefler himself to potentially take the witness stand alongside the celebrated actors to explain, under penalty of perjury, the exact manner in which this controversial international transaction was constructed. To truly understand the massive weight of this impending courtroom showdown, one must look back at the incredible journey of the two main heroes at the center of this saga, whose lives have been deeply intertwined with the very fabric of global cinema and cultural history for over 2 decades. The legendary actor and the acclaimed actress, who captured the hearts of millions when their relationship first blossomed in the mid-2000s, were once viewed as the ultimate Hollywood power couple, a pair whose shared influence, immense wealth, and artistic vision allowed them to build a massive global empire. Their deeply publicized marriage in 2014, which took place in the private chapel of the very same Chateau Miraval estate that they are now fighting over, was supposed to be the ultimate celebration of their enduring bond and a beautiful promise to their large, diverse family. Together they share 6 children who have grown up under the relentless spotlight of global fame. Their biological children Shiloh, Knox, and Vivian, alongside their adopted children Maddox, Pax, and Zahara. For years, the family traveled the world together, balancing high-profile film sets with extensive global humanitarian missions, creating an image of an unbreakable, deeply committed unit that was building a lasting legacy for future generations to inherit. However, the fairy tale came to a sudden, highly dramatic end just 2 years after their wedding, when a deeply fractured separation in 2016 triggered a prolonged, incredibly painful divorce process that would take nearly 8 long years of grueling legal maneuvers to officially resolve. While the former couple finally managed to quietly finalize a formal divorce settlement in late 2024, successfully bringing an end to the highly publicized custody dispute that had deeply drained their emotional resources, the bitter warfare over their shared business interests refused to die down. The peaceful French vineyard, which was once intended to be a beautiful sanctuary where their children could gather for decades to come, quickly became the main stage for an entirely new kind of hostility, transforming from a symbol of familial love into a high-stakes corporate battleground. The actor, who had dedicated a massive amount of his personal time, passion, and creative energy into transforming the estate's wine division into an incredibly lucrative, world-renowned rosé brand, viewed the preservation of the winery as a matter of personal honor and artistic integrity. For him, the sudden, unapproved introduction of an international corporate conglomerate into this deeply personal project was a direct, calculated attack on his life's work, an offensive maneuver designed to permanently strip him of his rightful control over the estate's future direction as the countdown to the February 2027 trial continues. The wider implications of this legal battle are sending major shockwaves through the entire global business and entertainment communities, illustrating how easily a private domestic dispute can spill over into the complex world of international commerce. The impending depositions in London, coupled with the mandatory mediation sessions, ensure that the final months of this year will be filled with intense legal positioning, as both sides attempt to secure a decisive advantage before the main trial begins. The actors' legal team is fully prepared to use their recent string of courtroom victories to demand total, unyielding transparency from the Stoli Group, aiming to prove that the billionaire and his corporate allies intentionally worked with the actress to bypass the actor's contractual rights in a deliberate effort to punish him. Conversely, the actress's legal team remains entirely unmoved by these developments, firmly maintaining that her decision to sell her stake was a completely legitimate exercise of her financial independence, a necessary step to entirely sever her remaining ties to her former husband and to ensure that her family can finally find the peace and closure they have desperately sought for a decade. This historic confrontation has ultimately evolved into a powerful, multi-layered narrative about the heavy price of legacy, the absolute limits of trust, and the incredible devastating fallout that occurs when a grand partnership completely breaks down. What began years ago as a private, romantic vision shared by two of the world's most recognizable figures in the quiet hills of France has now expanded into a massive multi-continental legal drama involving powerful corporate executives, mysterious international billionaires, and a $164 million empire hanging in the balance. As the global audience watches this fascinating story unfold in real time, waiting to see what will happen during the high-stakes mediation in October and the definitive trial next year, it becomes increasingly clear that there will be no